What's up everyone and welcome back to this YouTube channel. Today in this video we are going to create this awesome looking input shake animation. So for example, I have an input field here. If I type anything invalid in this input field, you can see it gives me this shake animation and the border color turns to red. And if I type in anything that's valid, nothing happens. As soon as I type in anything invalid, you can see I get this nice looking shake animation. So this is what we will be building in this tutorial. I hope you learned something new from this video. So without wasting any more time, let's get right into this video. In order to start, create these two files, test.css and test.html. And in this test.html file, I'll create my HTML structure. So let's first link our CSS file inside this HTML file. So I'll say link and pass in test.css. So this will link my CSS file to the HTML file. And inside the CSS file, let's define some basic styling for the page. So I'll say star and then say padding of 0 and margin of 0. Now coming back to the test.html, in here I'll first define a div and give it a class of container. And inside this div, I'm going to define my input and I'm going to add a placeholder, say something. If we refresh, you can see we have this thing on the screen right now. What we want to do is we first want to middle it in our web page. We can do that easily with Flexbox. So let's go ahead and say dot container, target the container. And in here, I'll say display flex. I'll say width of 100 VW and height of 100 VH. And then I'll say align items center. So you can see already it's aligning itself in the center vertically. Now we need to align it horizontally. So we'll say justify content center, just like this. So we have this input right in the middle of this page. Now we need to check whatever the user passes to this input field is valid or invalid. And we can do that by adding an attribute to our HTML input field. So there's an attribute called pattern. To this pattern attribute, you can pass any regular expression. So for example, if I only want to accept characters from A to Z, lowercase a to Z, then I can write something like square braces and A to Z. Then I'll add the star at the end. So now anything between A to Z lowercase will be accepted by this input field. So basically what we want to do is we want to see if the input given to our input field is valid, then we want to add some styling. If it's invalid, then we want to add some different styling. For example, I say input, I'm targeting the input directly. So for example, I can say input, then colon, then invalid. So what this thing does here is it will catch if anything given to our input box is invalid, then apply the following styles. So for example, if the user passes in some invalid input, we want to make our background red. So for example, background color red. And if we test this out, right here we have the regular expression which only allows lowercase a to z characters. Anything except that, it's going to fail. So if we test it out now, let's add anything. Nothing happens because everything is lowercase a to z. But as soon as you type in something else, for example, a number, you can see, boom, the background color changes to red. Isn't that awesome? So you can do this thing in the HTML and CSS. You don't need to use JavaScript at all. So now let's make it a bit nicer. So what also you can do is, for example, if you only want the numbers, you can say from 0 to 9, pass in numbers, nothing will happen. If you pass in any characters, it turns to red. You can also mix and match. For example, you can say A to Z, then 0 to 9. It will also work. So now it's going to take all the lowercase characters and the numeric characters. For example, if you type in lowercase characters and the numeric characters, nothing happens. But when you pass in the capital letters, you can see the uppercase letters turn this thing into red again. So this thing is working perfectly. So now if you also want the uppercase characters as well, what you can do is, instead of saying this thing, you can say A to Z, then capital A or uppercase A to uppercase Z. This thing should also work now. If I type in any uppercase, nothing happens. Any lowercase, nothing happens. digits, nothing happens. But if I pass in any other special character, you can see it turns red. So this is how the regular expressions work in this pattern attribute of our HTML input tags. So I hope this thing is clear to you. Now let's go ahead and style this thing. So in my CSS, instead of changing the background color, what I want is I want the border color to be change to red, and I want that shake animation. So first things first, let's style this input a little bit. So input, and I want a padding of 10 pixels. So you can see now it looks a bit nice. And let's come here now. Let's come directly here now. Let's add that shake animation now. So the first thing we want to do is change the border color to, let's say, red if it's invalid. And what we also want to do, we want to add an animation of shake. Animation shake. And let's give it a value of 0.4 seconds. Yeah. Now down here, I can define my keyframes. So keyframes, and let's replace this identifier with shake. So shake. And what I'll do here is I'll say 25% and add this thing, transform, translate x minus 5 pixels. And I'll copy this thing, paste it down 2 more times and say 50% translate x to 5 pixels and 100% translate this to minus 5 pixels. So this should give us a nice looking shake animation. So if we run it now, let's change our regular expressions. So we are only going to take lowercase characters, save it. Yeah, let's test this now. If we pass in any lowercase numbers, nothing happens. But if we pass in any number, you can see we get that nice looking animation. But we don't see the border color changing. In order to see that, what we need to do is we need to come here and say input colon focus. So whenever input is in focus, what you want to do is we are going to set the outline to none. Now, if we save it and type in anything, type in any invalid character, you can see it shakes and it changes the border color to red. Now we can also add something like this. We can say input valid, and when it's valid, just change the border color to green. Yeah, change it to green. Let's say green yellow. Yeah, just like this. So when we type in the lowercase letters, nothing happens. As soon as we type anything else, the shake animation happens and we get the border color as red. And also, if we get rid of the 7 now, you can see we are passing in the valid characters and the border color also changes to green. So this is working really nice. So yeah, you can add any more things to it if you like. You can style this input in however the way you like, but this is the basics of it, how you can create a shake animation based on whether the user types something that you want them to type in your input field. And how you define what user can type into an input field is by this pattern attribute where you can pass in any regular expression. If you want to learn more about regular expressions, there are a ton of resources on internet. You can change them however the way you like. For example, if you want a regular expression that only accepts the emails, what you can do is you can define it in this way. You want all the lowercase letters, and you also want all the uppercase letters, and you want the digits as well. And you, let's say you only accept those characters in the email, and then at the end you can add this at the rate of, let's say you only accept the Gmail emails, so you can say gmail.com. So now if I come to this input box and I start typing something, you can see it turns red because we are passing in an incorrect input. We need to pass in an email that has these characters and also is a Gmail uh, and also is an email from the gmail.com. So let's add some digits here. Let's add some uppercase letters here. And then when we say at the rate of gmail.com, you can see it turns green. So we kind of defined a pattern here that we are going to accept in our regular expression, and it works perfectly. Even if I change this to, let's say, yahoo.com. You can see it's still red, it doesn't turn green. As soon as I change it to gmail.com, you can see it changes instantly. So this is how amazing and cool this thing can get. So yeah, this is it from this video. I hope you learned something new from this video. Give this video a thumbs up. If you have any questions, you can comment down below. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, peace out.